that we wish we could show our kids? What's something we wish we could show our kids that is a guilty pleasure movie for us? And it's things like Mean Girls or Ferris Bueller. We kind of liked these comical, satirical, public school coming of age movies. Yeah. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is in the zone of movies that we were like, we really like these things. And Diary of a Wimpy Kid does a pretty good job telling a true story about being selfish. And so we were looking at, well, how do you take things like Mean Girls and flip them on their head sort of as a genre? No one's done that genre in Faced. I think Alexandra Boylan may have just recently done something similar, but very few people have touched that genre because the church has been notoriously scared of comedy and scared of satire, and it's been a dangerous territory for film in the last decade. And so, but that's what we decided to do. We were like, well, we're going to make a comedy. It's going to be for kids and family. And we're going to touch on some subjects that are challenging, from homeschooling to public schooling to the tech issues that families are facing. Really, the theme is the dangers of self-aggrandizement and self-absorption and all the things kids are struggling with right now. It's like, well, how do we address that in a way that's humorous and funny, creates opportunities for parents to talk to their kids about it in a non-threatening way.
Wake up, sleeper, and welcome to the Christ and Coffee podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to raise Christian kids in a secular and digital world. On the show today, we have the power couple, Nathan and Delitha Myers, to talk to us about Christian parenting. You might know Nathan as an award-winning creator with amazing credits as an actor, director, and designer. He even played a lead design role on the show The Chosen. You may have heard of The Chosen. And him and his wife also released a faith-based pro-family movie that you could watch on Amazon Prime called Aria Appleton Shines. But before we jump into today's program, I want to read our verse of the week, which comes from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verses 1 to 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy a long life on earth. With that said, please grab a cup of coffee and enjoy this Christ-centered conversation. Hey, Nathan and Delitha. Welcome. Delitha, right? It's Delitha.
It's Delitha, yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who are Delitha. Sorry, I apologize in advance. Delitha and Nathan, welcome to the Christ and Coffee podcast. I have a very theologically profound question I ask all my guests, and that is, how do you drink your coffee?
I'll go first because I'm the disappointment here. I take it as green tea.
Green tea. Okay. It's pretty caffeinated.
It is.
Yeah. And I am an obsessed coffee drinker, so I appreciate the question. Coffee black, but if I can have single origin Guatemala, it's my favorite. If I have to settle for French roast, I'll take it. These days I'm drinking a lot of cold brew as well, but I typically just black coffee. That's what I love the most.
That's the way to drink it. I pretend like there's no right answer to this question, but drinking your coffee black is definitely the right answer. But I like this Guatemalan variety of bean. That's kind of a nuance to it.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's interesting how certain regions produce certain taste buds, and that's hysterical. Mm-hmm. So how did you guys meet? What's the story there?
We met actually in around 2001.
2002.
Thank you.
This is great.
Honey. Okay. And we were both actually doing musical theater, directing music for a children's theater in Fort Worth called Kids Who Care, which is right next to Casa Mañana, if people are familiar with Dallas-Fort Worth. And Kids Who Care actually closed its doors this year for the very first time in a 30-year run. But we were there, in the early, kind of in their prime, and I was directing music. I was also touring with my brothers at the time. I have 3 biological brothers, and we're the Myers brothers, and we would tour and lead worship places, and we'd do pop music and pop shows and festivals. And our tour got pushed, and I was able to actually do camp that summer, but the camp had already hired Delitha to replace me.
I had just moved to Texas from New York. I had graduated college, moved to New York because that's what a musical theater person does. You know, you go to New York to try to do it. But I didn't like living there, so I only lasted about 7 months, and I just was like, I don't like it. So I moved to Texas, where immediately I got cast at a regional theater, got my union equity card, and then within that month, I also met this guy, and so I was hired. And then the director, Miss Deborah Jung, she told me, "Oh, actually, this guy that has been our musical director, he's with his brother's doing a tour, but it got pushed, so he's going to come back and do it with us. I think you guys would really hit it off." And I was not looking for a husband at the time. You know, I was 22. I was ready to take on the world. And I thought, oh, please be in like some hillbilly band, like be Missing Teeth. But instead he was in a boy band in the 90s, you know, in the early 2000s. And he was really cute.
Yeah. It's best when you don't look for it. It's more natural and organic. So what led it to a romantic thing? Was it just love at first sight, or was it just you got a date?
I looked up at her on stage, and she sat down next to me, and I was thinking at the time, she's the cutest person I've ever seen in my life. I was smitten, and she sat down next to me, and lightning struck my brain, and it was as if the Lord just said, "Hey, this is your wife, and congratulations. Here's your introduction." And it landed on me like a ton of bricks that I was going to marry her. So,
and I really liked him immediately because I knew I knew a few things about him. I knew he was a Christian. I knew he did music. I knew he liked to work with kids, and he was very good looking, which really helped. And
she was too. So,
but our
that's
first
helpful.
date was very organic, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, do you want to go get some food? I know we can go get some food." And I was like, "I love food." He took me to youth group at his brother was the youth minister at the church. He took me to youth group. And so I'm an introvert, and his brother lived in an apartment, which is where youth group was happening. So there's like 40 teens, and his grandmother was in town, and his 3 brothers and his parents, all in this tiny space. And I was just like, maybe I've made a mistake. I don't know. But I lasted.
That didn't scare her off. Well, I figure if you have a big family and you come from that kind of socialized family background, you better acclimate them quickly and find out if they're going to be okay with all of that. Because in my life, that was just a given. I have a big family, and there was a lot of noise all the time. And so,
I think that's crucial for premarital counseling, which I do quite a bit of. And yeah, like you're marrying into families, but I love this concept of you guys are just doing what the Lord's calling you to do: make art, make music, make production, and then in that process, you find someone who's like-minded, looking forward in the same direction, and then I'm walking side by side. And then, this whole idea of getting approval from friends who kind of know each other is always a good sign, because I think the scary thing with like online dating is there's no organic filters of like mutual friends or mutual family members who approve or giving you that assessment. And they're usually spot on, especially if they care about you primarily. They're going to want what's best for you versus some soulless algorithm or randomness on the internet matching site.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to hear more and more stories of relationships forming this way. And then you got married. How many kids do you have?
We have 2. We have a 12-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old boy.
Wonderful. And what was what were like some of the Christian principles raising them, or currently raising them?
I think some
nuggets of wisdom here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how wise we are in the grand scheme. We doubt that daily. I think most parents do. You think you're trying to do the right thing. I had a really great example in my parents. My parents are Christian ministry team that have been planting churches for 40 years. And they had 3 boys who, generally speaking, had successfully grown up, accepted Christ, no major obvious rebellion, or like might be expected from the proverbial PK and things like that. And but my parents erred on the side of freedom and liberty, and allowing us to they weren't pushing us to be anything in particular. They did have a fairly strict household rules and things like that, like most parents should, but they were very free with us. They wanted us to make our own decisions about what we believed about things, and allow. I think that, and that's kind of what we're doing. I think we're trusting that that God is in the process with your kids, and you give them some room to make mistakes. You give them some room to flex. If you confine them too much beyond the boundaries that are healthy for kids, the kind of boundaries kids like, if you confine them too much and you impose too much upon them or force feed them your belief system, that's when my family and many others that we've run around with, that's when we've seen kids reject the faith, or they reject the church, or they'll reject some aspect of that outright. And it's just usually sheer rebellion, pushback. And so we have a rather I think free and flexible parenting approach in that regard. But we also have, in the case of our 12-year-old, an incredibly conscientious, sensitive kid who is so it's so important to her to do the right thing and kind of be in our good graces. The last thing that she wants to do is hurt us or reject what we're asking of her and things like that. So I think we're fairly free in that regard.
With Aurora, our daughter, it's been very important that we have open conversations. That's been very important since she was little. And so if she asks a question, which she's always asked, the deep questions, always, we talk openly about it, even if, like, I thought, oh, well, I wanted to have that conversation when you're 14, but okay, we'll have it when you're 7. Great.
Right.
And so she kind of guides the conversations a lot. Or if we accidentally watch something and it pops up in a movie or TV, and now we have to have this hard conversation that the world told us when we have this conversation, we stop and we have that conversation. And so I think it's really important that she hears the truths of the world and the falsehoods of the world from us and our mouths, and not from peers first, so that we are the ones guiding her in her knowledge. And then I think it's just important as a mother-daughter duo to have just open conversations, so that she continues to talk to me as she enters these teen years. And then we also have some hard tech rules in our family too, about when we can use technology, when we can't, what are you allowed to see in technology? And so we have some pretty strict rules there.
So I want to get to those rules, because I think that those are the guidelines. But again, it depends on the kid. It depends on the environment, the household. Of course, there's a lot of variables here. But I love the fact that you just, like, I have 2 boys. I'm always worried about the crazy PK story, as you mentioned. And he's like, no, that's not my story. Me and my bros, we love the Lord, and we did ministry, and like, we're having youth group in our tiny apartment with 40 kids, and that's normal. And I love that, because I think there's always a bad rap with kind of just, especially if you're a pastor and you have a pastor family, the eyeballs are on you, but it doesn't need to be a dramatic story. My favorite testimonies are, you grew up in a Christian home and you're acting it like it, but there's this cool sense that you're saying that you can't force it. You just got to create parameters. You have to be guides. You provide this sage wisdom and the guidance and some rules, but at the same time, you help them discover truth for themselves and just show love and grace. We had a psychologist on the program a couple of years ago, and she did her research, doctoral research on pastor kids specifically. And she found that it's good to have strict rules, but to allow grace to get there. Mm-hmm. If there's no grace, it's problematic. And if there's no standards, it's also problematic. It was a dissertation on just parenting in general, about the golden mean is like having strong rules, but also having grace and love at the same time, not just one or the other.
Well, that demonstrates the truth of God to us, doesn't it? And that's a picture of that. And the thing that kids are pushing back on when they reject against your dogma, or they reject your unreasonable rules, or they reject you because you are unreasonable and mean or capricious towards them, well, then they start to go, well, if that's the way God is, I don't want any part of that. And they start to call you out on your own falsehood. And when they're calling you out on your own falsehood, then you've gotten yourself into that position. And so I've seen so many pastors that are like that. They're ego driven, they're maniacal, they're money driven, they're whatever. And their kids are going, my dad is false.
Yeah,
I know it.
Right.
Why can't you guys see it? And so they reject that person. My dad was not like that. My brothers and I are probably more like you guys. My brothers and I were looking at my dad going, that man is gold. That man is Jesus. That man is doing what Jesus was doing. Why would I ever? I mean, you might feel like, well, I'm not sure about some of this, but you can't deny the heartfelt truth of that person. You can't do that. I mean, you would never hate that, because he was so good to us, and he was strict, but he loved us deeply, and he gave us an immense amount of grace, which is what you're talking about. It's that ability to go, oh, okay, well, this is not so bad. Why would I reject this philosophical position or this belief system? And so, yeah.
Yeah, my dad always would say, he's from the Middle East. He goes, the pomegranate is not far from the tree, pomegranate. But yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in those old nuggets of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But we are in a different age in our upbringings, right? We remember a time when there was no iPhone in our hands. And now we're going to remember a time before artificial intelligence. So that's the next wave of this. But this is why these like spiritual truths matter and the changing times. But what are some of the strict rules of when it comes to tech and parenting? Because I think this goes to your callings and also just to provide guidance.
So for Aurora, she's not supposed to get on. So she has an iPad. And what I found with my friends and my students' parents is that these iPads, they come from the grandparents, right? Like, for my child,
grandparents,
I'm like, what? Why?
Or
you
long
should
car
ask
ride.
my permission first. But no, here it is, Christmas present. So it came from the grandparents. So we had to figure that out pretty fast. So I homeschool her, and the first rule is that she's not allowed to get on it until school's over. Right. So we have to do breakfast. We have to talk. We have to do school. And then she can get on it. Fortunately, I don't have an attitude problem from her now. I used to in her earlier years. And so I could use that as ammunition. Like, okay, well, you've had a really bad day with your attitude, so you don't get this. It's a privilege. Now she always gets it because she's pretty great. But then she can be on it. She's only allowed to do Messenger Kids. And that is because she's got a friend who lives over in Asia, and her family does mission work over there. And so they usually talk at our night and their morning. So we cut her off. She's got a rule that she's cut off at 8:30 p.m. For other families, it should probably be earlier, but we stay up. We're free spirits and we stay up. So 8:30 is when she has to get cut off, and that allows for some time for her to talk to her BFF. And so she does that, and really,
I think most 13-year-olds don't have missionary friends in Asia. So yeah, it's good to not have like strict rules when it comes to her circumstances.
And sometimes there's one time her friend, her dad texted us and was like, hey, Nora really wants to tell Aurora something. I know it's like around your time, but can she get on? Of course. So we make exceptions. But she doesn't have social media, and I've told her she can't have that until she's 18. That could probably change, but I just don't think her little mind can, kids' brains, they're not fully formed for a while. So she doesn't have friends either. I mean, like, her friends, she either sees them or she talks to them in Asia. So I don't know. She doesn't go to public school or private school. So we might not have to deal with that like a lot of other parents have to deal with, like the social media thing.
Yeah, there was a Jonathan Haidt. He's like a agnostic atheist professor at NYU. He wrote The Anxious Generation, and one of the main thesis of his book was like social media for a teenage girl is like the worst possible thing.
Yeah.
And that's like because of and the anxiety rates is through the roof from the age group right above your daughters.
Yeah. So we have we made a movie, and we have tech in our movie, cyberbullying. And so we did a lot of research about that. And one of the statistics is that 60% of kids who go to school are going to experience cyberbullying. And 1 out of every 4 girls that is affected by cyberbullying will self-harm.
Yeah.
And I just read I just read another statistic too this week that said that they've done some comparison between things like Instagram and TikTok, and that more boys are on Instagram, more girls are on TikTok, because TikTok's more emotionally engaging and erratic, and that boys are a little put off by it compared to girls. And so TikTok is even attracting the female person, just the female wiring. They're being attracted to that specifically, whereas boys are being attracted to things that are a little more linear. And I find that curious too. So,
and I think that's horrible, because TikTok's like how people are advertising on TikTok it's mature, and it is a lot of just evil things that we do not need precious little eyes to see.
Yeah, and so it's hard to monitor too once you're on, especially 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Like I can monitor YouTube videos, but then if the YouTube Reels, the amount of time I have for my kids, it's quite difficult to monitor everything. And yeah, I mean, you can't protect your kid from everything, but at least you should be protective when it comes to content consumption. I think there's like this weird thing where parents are like scared that their kid's going to fall on the playground, and they get helicopter parenting there. But the reality is they should probably just learn how to not fall and get up on their own, and be like more loose with that, but the reality is a lot of times we kind of neglect the content creation of the mind, and we overprotect on the body. And that leads to this weird dichotomy where the kid should be out and running about, but also the consumption of what they're able to process at their age is protected, just because no 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 12-year-old could process some of the stuff they could receive through a TikTok video. It's just not worth it.
It's challenging too, because our 3-year-old is fascinating. He already knows how to enlarge a picture. He can navigate around in the environment and so well. It fascinates me to watch him, and he'll grab my phone away from me at some point, and he'll blow up a picture, he'll X something out, he'll swipe something. He knows exactly how to navigate that to get where he needs to go. And so we're very, very conscientious about how much time he wants to make. Because if I let him sit on a phone or an iPad all day long, that's all he would do. Right. That's kind of terrifying. And so you have to look at that like, well, if I gave him a mountain of cotton candy, that's all he would do, is sit and eat the cotton candy all day. And he would, and he'd be sick. And so we have to be very careful with that, and we know that Steve Jobs and others in high places wouldn't even let their kids have them on their body, much less use them for the purpose that we're using them for. And so we're being conscientious about that as well, for health reasons, just to make sure they're safe. They're not overexposed to anything. We don't keep the Bluetooth on. We don't keep the Wi-Fi on. We download movies. The country of France outlawed Wi-Fi in public schools in 2015 due to 2G gigahertz Wi-Fi, with suspicions and concerns that there might be developmental issues for kids. And so we're watching that closely as well, in terms of just general exposure to those devices and the different frequencies and things like that. So we're being careful. And if the 3-year-old has asked me twice for the phone, like, Dad, I want your phone, Dad, I need to get on the phone, then I immediately go in myself and go, do you have time right now to take him to the trampoline? Can you take him down to the creek?
That's the challenge right there.
Right. Because that is a better choice. And that is what I'm doing personally to intervene, is I'm going, no, we're not going to get on the phone or the iPad right now, but I will take you outside. What do you want to go do? Ride with me up to the barn. Let's go do that. And so I'm trying to intervene purposefully. And I think that's hard for a lot of parents.
It's hard for us.
It's hard for us because you have to do the self-sacrificing thing at that moment and do what's best for your child, and maybe not what's best for your career or the work in front of you that needs to be done, or the fact that you were just sitting there doom scrolling and he's calling you out on it. And you're like, yep, I'm doom scrolling too. So let's not do that. Let's exit. Let's go outside. And so we're being very, very intentional about it, and trying to be aware, trying to be conscious of it.
Yeah. No, and it's also a reflection of not just the time, because it's a quick fix of like, here, just take your phone. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm tired from work, to do what to do what the role of parenting is, to sacrifice and be there, not take the easy route. But at the same time, it's also always a reflection of like realizing my own addiction to tech. And it's like, am I modeling this well? This is just me confessing out loud, because I realize I'm on my phone all the time, and it's always tricky too when you have like, you could justify it, like, oh, I have work emails, or I have social media content to create, I need to be on my phone. No, I don't. But it's always a reminder for me too. Like, it's not just for young people; it's for everyone. How much attachment do we have to the tech, and how much time do we have to just reflect and to think on our own? And that's where creative ideas come and problem solving happens, when there's these awkward silent moments where we could think and pray and reflect, and so crucial. So you guys are not just, you care about the content that's being created. You're not anti-art, anti-content. You just want to make it godly, and you guys are in the business of making good content. What are some of the negative experiences you had with your backgrounds about some of the kind of how the pork was been made, some of these content? Have you ever been in projects that were like not godly or secular, or it was mostly Christian stuff throughout your careers?
Yeah, I mean, we've both been in projects that are not Christian, especially earlier in my career. And I'd say just the overall thing that stands out to me is people's language on set. They talk like they're in an R-rated movie. And it's always jarring to me when I hear that, because we don't, I never have, and we just don't talk like that. And so to be in a work environment where that's how they talk, that's their professional jargon, it's always just like, oh, okay. And then that makes me not want to invest in a relationship with those people, because it's just, for me, it's just off-putting. When I really probably should be Jesus on those sets and reach out to them. But oh well, I didn't. I was 20. What did I know? But I did know that that's not how I spoke. So that's for me the biggest thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me, I have been on several mainstream movie sets, and I've had a similar experience. I think for me, my personality is kind of tied to mission. If I don't really feel like what I'm doing matters or is important to the world, or is helping other people, or has some sort of humanitarian effort or a missional effort, I have trouble getting excited about it. And so I would get attached to a project in some capacity as an actor or art department, which is the two areas where I have functioned a lot over the years. And I'd be like, yeah, this is fine. It's fun. But then you come away from it and it feels like, what was that all about? I don't understand what that was about. And at 18, I was doing mission work. So I've always had a driver like that, where I need for what I'm doing to matter to me. I need it to matter to me. And so in 2014, I had produced 3 features with friends. I had done several shorts. I had worked on several other people's projects. By 2014, we had also designed and built Capernaum Studios and Gardens, where they shot The Chosen seasons 1 through 3. I'd been involved in some big projects at that point, but I was feeling a little dissatisfied, mostly in myself, about the driver in me. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And so the reason we're doing what we do today is because of that shift that happened to me about 10 years ago. And I'd had about 15 years of high school theater and post-college work and all those kinds of things that we've been doing, and some of it was faith-based. And I had contrast at that point. I could look back and go, well, why do I feel out of sorts about this? And I could say, well, it's because you prefer working on things that are missional. You prefer working on things that matter. You prefer walking in the light and not over here in this gray area that quickly leads over into darkness. You prefer to be in this space. And so why don't you focus on that? And that's how we ended up where we are today. It was really just a recognition. I think you have to work in both environments to some degree to appreciate it. These days, I'm more mature. It's easy for me to look at a project and go, I don't have time for that. Or and it's not that it's beneath me. It's lateral to me. It's lateral to my purpose. and I can look at it, yeah, that doesn't fit the description of what my life is about and what I am called to do, what I'm assigned to do. Now, occasionally the Lord will put something in front of me like, hey, go do this because you got to get your bills paid and this is how I'm going to do it. And you go, okay, no problem. And then you find out if your attitude is right in the midst of those types of projects and you are on a mission to be salt and light with those people. Well, you can have great impact on people while you're there. And so if I do get attached to a mainstream project, I just look for opportunities to serve and opportunities to bless. And I did a fairly mainstream movie a year ago. We had a team of, I was art directing, and we had a team of 50. And I opened every day with prayer for our team. I'm a department head. And so I opened every day with prayer. And I had this guy come up to me, and he was like, he's not a believer, but he's like, I've not really ever seen people praying on a movie set before. This is kind of, I said, welcome to my world. And so I know that we're planting seeds doing that. And it's my department. I get to be me. If you're going to work for me, here's how I work for him. And so I'm going to open this day with prayer and invite the creator of the universe to keep us all safe and bless our day. You don't have to participate, but I'm going to do that. And that's planted a lot of seeds in the mainstream.
That's great. And I think that's the tension I personally have with parenting. It's like, how do I raise my kid to be missional and also protect? It's that tension of, all right, is this Christian school or public school? Do they need to be a light in the public school, even at first grade? Or do I need to cultivate that and they're not ready for it yet? Or are they ever going to be ready? So it's always that inner tension I have as a young dad. I'm still figuring things out, but it's always that quite of the world or in the world kind of, we're in the world, we got to serve. But I do like what you're saying, just be obedient to the Lord. Like that's always the right answer, right? In that tension.
I have found if you'll do that, it does push some people away. I mean, obviously we are the aroma to Christ to those that are being saved and the smell of death to those that are perishing. And so if you're going to create that dichotomy, if you do that, and I think that's important. I think that you have to stand your ground. And I was listening to Jordan Peterson the other day talk about just being true. What's his goal? Why are you this way? Why are you like the way you are? He was like, I don't want to lie. I want to just tell you what I'm thinking, and I don't want to be false. And I appreciate that, especially as actors and people that create, and PKs who can be full of it like the rest of, we can totally BS our way through things because of the nature of growing up as PKs. And it's easy for us to put on or be charm your way out of situations, politic your way out of situations, manipulate. You learn those skills early on, but there's a falsehood about that isn't helpful most of the time. And so if you're trying to walk in the light, speak truth, don't be deceptive, and be forthright, then you can just be what you are. And I think that that's one of the things the church needs today is that type of courage. It just needs people speaking out and being bolder that way, especially in a mainstream environment, especially in that space. Not to put people off, but and not to make enemies, but to just be true, to be honest.
That's great. And then you guys pivoted to create your own movie studio. Is that correct? Or in Graft Productions?
Grafted Studios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're called Grafted. Mm-hmm.
And then how did that come about? It's just kind of you were hinting at it this whole time, but just you were in these tensions, and then you're like, let's just do this. Let's just.
Yeah, in 2014, I got a really very clear call after a lot of prayer. We'd gone through kind of a tumultuous year and got a very clear sell your house, sell your vehicle kind of prompt from the Lord.
Oh, wow. That's no joke. Okay.
That is no joke.
And we had a baby.
And we had just had a baby. So it was really, it was how the Lord does. And that was the beginning of it. And we went away to pray about it. We were just like, I don't understand what this means. I thought at the time that I was going to get out of working in the arts and not be in that space, that maybe I'm being led into a mainstream job, a corporate job. I don't know. I have a broad educational background and I can do a lot of things, but I wanted to work in the arts. And so I was feeling like something's all I knew is something's going on.
Mhm.
You know, if the
Yeah.
Lord's like, sell your house, you're like, what? Why? We just had a baby. I need a house.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and and so we got that call after praying about it. Like a rubber, we tried to leave Texas too, which is where we were at the time, and like a rubber band, just got pulled right back. Moved in with the in-laws. An elder in my church looked at me at that point and said, "Hey, you're just living a biblical archetypal story. Moses and Abraham and all those patriarchs lived with their in-laws about half the time, so just embrace it." And then on the way home from this kind of little quest to figure out what we were supposed to do as a byproduct of that, like, why are you asking us to do this? Uh, Independently of one another, I think, as it should be. She's praying, I'm praying, and we came back together. And I said, I don't think you're going to like what I got in prayer about what I think we're supposed to be doing. And she was like, "Oh, I know. We're making a movie. I know." And so we went back to Texas with that as a goal. The resulting project that came up out of that season of prayer and just going, what do we do? What are we supposed to do? And it's interesting because the Lord didn't give us uh, a go make a Christian film prompt. It was just like, go be free, live your lives. It is for freedom that I have set you free. Go be free and live your life. Do what you love to do, but please keep me in mind. That was
Right.
that was it. And I think that is what everyone is to be doing, because, you know, that's, if everybody had to be in ministry or in a pastoral position in order to please God, then we'd be in trouble. Uh, and and so, is it okay for somebody to just have a mainstream dirty job somewhere and serve the Lord in that? Yes. And so he was kind of releasing us to do the same thing. It's like, go make movies, but keep me in mind. Do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And of course, being the first fruits of our company, we're like, well, what do we want to do? How do we do this? And so we started, you know, the process of getting to what it is was one conversation. The conversation your listeners might be more interested in hearing about is how did we do it? Because we had sold a house, we'd sold a vehicle. I was basically homeless uh, on purpose, by choice. But we were debt free. We've got put in a position where we were not just debt free, but we had very little to work with. But when I took that back, I was like, okay, thanks for the keys to the car, Lord. I appreciate it, but I don't have any gas in this engine. I don't have a dollar to invest in a project.
And
Why
you have a
would you?
newborn baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and a new baby and all of these things. Like, how are we supposed to take what we have? And I had $2,500 left in the bank at that point. We didn't make a boatload of money off the sale of our house. It was just a obedience task, right? It was just like, we just sold it. And I said, I have $2,500 to invest in this. How am I supposed to make a movie with that? Because that's not how that works. And if I've ever heard anything as clearly, this is what I heard was 5 loaves, 2 fish, pass it out. You know what to do. And that said to me, and the more I thought about that and I prayed on it, I was just like, and I was mad. I was just like, it's so frustrating. It's like, why would you put me in this position? And but as a PK, you're like Timothy, right? You have the inheritance. You've been given that inheritance, and you're not necessarily squandering it, but you don't appreciate it, and you don't even understand it. And that is what I was being told at that point, was you don't get it. Like, you should understand how the 5 loaves and the 2 fish get passed out and multiply.
Yeah.
You should get that, but you don't get it. And so I'm giving you a really great opportunity to learn it. And that's what we did. And I kid you not, I've never experienced momentum in my life. Not really. I did when we did missions. It was interesting. Like, you know, you're on the wings of angels when you're doing missions half the time, and you just don't.
Yeah.
You
No,
can't
I get what you're
explain.
saying. Yeah.
You can't explain how doors open and close, other than things are just miraculously happening for you. But at that point, when we started passing out the little that we had and started asking for help, resources and money and all sorts of things just came right in, and it blew our minds. It, you know, blew our hair back. and we were like, whoa, what is happening right now? And that is how the movie got made. And so when people, and it's cool because when distributors look at it, distributors have all said, oh, you spent what, $2-3 million? Is not what you guys spent through this? And I just go, I don't get, is that what it looks like to you?
I just had 5 loaves and 2
I had 5 loaves, 2 fish. It looks like $3 million. Great. And so we were just, I think God was teaching us that lesson. And I've had to come to the point where I if that was the only reason that we made that, if that was it, was just to teach us how that works and to walk more in faith, that would have to be okay with that.
And I love what you're saying about the call, because I think people get caught up with when God speaks in 2 different ways. Like, I mean, how God speaks. So first of all, it's like a lot of times I've been asked this hypothetical from other pastors, like, what if the Lord calls you to do something and your wife is not supportive? I'm like, the Lord could speak to my wife too. And that's why I just always am flabbergasted. If it's from the Lord, it's going to get multiple confirmations. And I think most callings are confirmed by people outside of it, like your wife is going to hear from the Lord. You're going to hear from the Lord. Friends might even support it. So I love that about this radical move of just selling everything. And the other thing too is kind of this, people think when the Lord calls us, it's like tit for tat, like a instruction manual versus no, go do this. And then like the creativity aspect of it, like he called Paul to go west, not east. That was the advice. And he ends up in Macedonia. Like, it wasn't like, go talk to this person in Macedonia and then do this in Macedonia. He's just like, go in that direction and just go and just be you. Everything that you've done before, I'm going to utilize. Just do that. So I just love that about this story and your faith and obedience to just sell everything and make. And so what made you make the movie? Is it Aria Appleton?
Yeah, Aria Appleton shines. I would like to say our daughter. I would see the things that were available to her, and they're just not great. They definitely don't keep God in mind. They often have hidden agendas that I'm shocked by. I don't know why I'm still shocked, but I am. And so we wanted to make something that that she could watch and that she would love, and that would create great talking points. We have a leader's guide, youth and parents guide that accompanies the movie, which they can find at.
Yes, if you email us, we can send you a copy, but we would prefer you visit Give, Send, Go and make a nominal donation, and we'll send that to you. There's also some other things there at our Give, Send, Go /Aria Appleton that could get you the leader's guide as well. But we want everybody to have that if they have the movie, because that's our gift back to parents to say, well, how do I talk to my kids about some of these challenging subjects? And
like technologies and their cyberbullying, role models.
Yeah. And it's funny. One of the reasons I remember sitting around having a conversation with her, it's like, well, if we were going to write something that we wish we could show our kids, what's something we wish we could show our kids that is a guilty pleasure movie for us? And it's things like Mean Girls or Ferris Bueller. We kind of liked these comical, satirical, public school coming of age movies. Yeah. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is in the zone of movies that we were like, we really like these things. And Diary of a Wimpy Kid does a pretty good job telling a true story about being selfish. And so we were looking at, well, how do you take things like Mean Girls and flip them on their head sort of as a genre? No one's done that genre in Faced. I think Alexandra Boylan may have just recently done something similar, but very few people have touched that genre because the church has been notoriously scared of comedy and scared of satire. And it's been a dangerous territory for film in the last decade. And so, but that's what we decided to do. We were like, well, we're going to make a comedy. It's going to be for it's kids and family. And we're going to touch on some subjects that are challenging, from homeschooling to public schooling to the tech issues that families are facing. Really the theme is the dangers of self-aggrandizement and self-absorption and all the things kids are struggling with right now. It's like, well, how do we address that in a way that's humorous and funny creates opportunities for parents to talk to their kids about it in a non-threatening way. And we've had parents come up to us at screenings and go, thank you so much for making this, because now this is going to be so easy to talk to my kids at home about. So, but the Leader's Guide is a help. It's just our offering back to people so that if they're not sure what to do once they're talking about it with their kids, it's some exercises, worksheets, scripture.
And there's things for the little kids to do, like, so that they can be doing something and absorbing what the parents are telling their older kids.
That's great. No, because I think one of the dangers of like just the iPhone generation, like you used to listen to an album in a setting where you put on a record on in the turntable, and you have to like experience that together. Same thing with movies, you have to experience that together, and what gets lost is the reflection and doing it communally. So it's cool that you created this resource to engage the parent and the kid to kind of process the art now. And that's what art does. It should process us to absorb truth and what is right and wrong. And that's a great idea, and I'm glad that this resource exists and this movie exists. I also love kind of this fact that you're keeping the heart of your daughter at the center of this project. And at the surface, it may seem a little selfish, but if it's a genuine love, that love for your daughter is going to now bless everyone who's part of that, because it's sincere. And for me, from a theologian perspective, it's like that's how God created the world. God so loved the Son, and out of the love of the Son, all the beauty of existence is out of that. So it's this overflowing of love, because love is always great, no matter the motive of it. It just overflows. So wonderful. I'll put the links for the movie and for everything in the description and in the intro. But I do want to just ask one final question. If you had one message to share with the church in America, what would it be? You could each have a turn.
One message for the church is stay connected to the head. Stay connected to the head, which is Christ. The church is in my youth, and there's so many areas where they've been cut off. They are cut off, and they're caught up in dogma. They're caught up in religious systems. They're caught up in patterns. They're caught up in argumentation, and they're caught up in end times. They're caught up in politics. They're caught up in spectacle worship, and they're caught up in theater, and they're caught up in all this kind of stuff. But the only way you can generate anything of value that's going to be of value and of service to the Lord in the world is to get connected to the head. And that is my big encouragement to the church and people in the church. And if you're looking at your particular church group, pastor, preacher, teacher situation, and they're not, and you recognize it, well, pray that God leads you places where you can continue to grow in that connectedness. The Spirit will guide you into all truth. And so get in that river, get connected to the head, and then, and only sky's the limit at that point of what type of productivity people can achieve, what type of experiences they can have, and the ways that God can help you thrive in your own life. And then that thriving is then a blessing to others. So that's my big beef with the church, is there's an often seeming disconnect from Jesus.
Litha, anything to add?
I mean, how can you top that? No, ditto.
All right, then. Well said. And that's always the right answer. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the end of the Christ and Coffee podcast. Have a great week. Stay caffeinated, my friends, and God bless you.